Hey everybody, Lead Speed here. Sorry if I sound very weird. I actually got very sick. I don't even know how it came about, but it kind of sucks. Although it was much worse earlier, let me tell you, it was just really bad. And even now my voice is kind of messed up a little bit because my throat gets really blocked up, so sometimes when I talk sometimes my voice gets really blocked up and then I can't even say certain things, so it kind of sucks, but I want to get a freaking video out, damn it, so I'm going to freaking do it, and I think maybe to help cheer me up a bit, I would do one with my favorite dual terminal archetype ever, Gusto. Gusto's a deck that I'd say for the most part has, I don't know, I mean, people kind of look down on it. Some people don't even like the deck. You know, some people are like, oh, Gustos suck, or some don't like the fact that it has a bajillion recruiters and it's really annoying to deal with them. And I agree with the latter being very annoying because most of them float, and now we have a card that kind of helps with it too in a way. But I guess it's neither here nor there. This is a deck that I have been playing ever since I first knew about them, before Dagustos Freeze ever came out. And, you know, I wanted to try to, you know, mess around with the deck, you know, see what kind of Gusto monsters are usually ran in the deck. And I had a general consensus that these four right here are like the main ones, definitely the main ones in the main deck anyways. And then the others might just be tech cards or something like that. But now that we have new support in the form of Pirika, Lineage of Gusto, one of this deck's win conditions, I guess, is much easier to pull off or even establish and whatnot. But we'll get into the profile, and then as per usual, I'll explain what things do and whatnot, because some people may not even know. There might be some random people that might. So, anyways, let's do this. And sorry if my voice sounds really fucked up, but I gotta deal with it. So we have 2 copies of Camp Serenity of Gusto, 3 copies of Gusto Eagle, 3 copies of Gusto Godo, 2 copies of Wind Up Priestess of Gusto, 2 copies of Kamui Hope of Gusto, and it's end of the Gusto engine, 3 Pirika Lineage of Gusto, and then the 2 is the Psychic Witch. For the spells, we have 1 Dark Hole, 3 copies of Supply Unit, 2 copies of Creature Swap, 3 copies of Emergency Teleport, 3 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon, and 1 Foolish Burial. For the traps, 1 Torrential Tribute, the Compulsory Evacuation Device, Bottomless Trap Hole, Solemn Warning, Black Horn of Heaven, 2 copies of Call the Haunted, 2 copies of Divine Wrath, and 1 Blessings for Gusto. For the extra deck, we have Daigusto Eagles, Daigusto Godos, Daigusto Falcos, 3 copies of Daigustos Freeze, Ally of Justice Catastor, Magical Android, HTS Psyhemoth, Psychic Nightmare, Black Rose Dragon, Thought Ruler Archfiend, Scrap Dragon, Levier the Sea Dragon, and Totem Bird are our only Exceed monsters that we run in the deck. Now, I guess I'll explain how the deck basically works and what the monsters basically do. If you don't know, Gustos have a lot of floaters. Example, Gusto Eagle, when he's destroyed in battle, get a level 4 lower non-tuner Gusto out of your deck. You're mainly going to get like Winda, Cam, or Pirika, I guess, depending on what the situation kind of calls for. But I guess Winda's kind of the main primary target if this is all you really have or whatever, because Winda, when she gets destroyed by battle with an opponent's attacking monster, you get to summon a Gusto Tuner, so you can get Gusto Godo or Gusto Eagle. Now, you might wonder why am I only running 2 as opposed to the 3 that I used to be running. Well, the problem with this card, and this is the most obvious problem, she has to be destroyed by battle with an opponent's attacking monster. So you can't even crash Winda into a monster or use Creature Swap with this card and get her effect. So I don't know, I don't like drawing her half the time unless I'm setting her and they have no idea what I'm playing. But I cut her down to 2 for now just to test the waters, and so far it's okay. And I don't know, I don't seem to be missing the 3rd one at any point, but that's just me. And you have Godo being probably one of the most key cards in this deck, especially true now that Pirika exists. And arguably out of the floaters, he's the best one because you know, he could be sent to the graveyard even with a card effect, as long as, you know, it's not an effect that's sending it to the graveyard on Chain Link 2 or higher, because missing the timing is a thing for this guy, and yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of people didn't know that back then. And then Cam is your mini pot of avarice for this archetype, because you get to put 2 Gustles back into your deck as a cost, and then you draw 1. So even if they go Effect Veiler, you still shuffle the 2 Gustles into your main deck. So that's really cool. And the reason I'm not running 3, I ran 3 back when I was playing like Pure Gusto a long time ago, but I found that I think 2 might actually be the best number to work with, mainly because you don't want to be drawing this card when you have no Gustles in the graveyard. You want to mainly summon her out of the deck with Gusto Eagle, or you want to draw her in the late game or something like that when you have a lot of Gustos in the graveyard. So, you know, you get to draw an extra card, which is always nice. And she's a level 4 for some of our synchro plays, so we could sync her up with Eagle to make level 5s. We could sync with Godo to make level 7s. We can even do some very weird stuff there and have like Cam, Godo, and then like, I don't know. This is something kind of weird. Now, Kamui was something I used in my Pure Gusto build a long time ago. I think I ran 3 of these, I think, and Gusto Falco. Now, Gusto Falco isn't in this deck because, in my opinion, I don't think you need him anymore. I mean, you can maybe run the 1 because he is a level 2 Gusto tuner, which can help with the whole Gustos freeze thing, because Gusto Falco and Cam make freeze. You can arguably do that, and as a tuner that you could summon off of Kamui too, but I don't know, I kind of feel like since Pirika's out, we now have a 1 card that does this freeze play, and you don't particularly need Falco, but it is something you can consider. I mean, Falco's effect to special summon a Gusto monster from your deck face down isn't bad. I mean, it's kind of just there to facilitate. It's just there to kind of facilitate Kamui a little bit. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I ran like 2 back then, but now I'm not running it anymore. And then the newest edition, Kamui, very awesome card. In fact, I was hoping a card like this would ever be printed. Now, when you print a card like this, you have to realize that when you give a deck a card that lets you go for like one to earn, or 1 card boss monsters, and that kind of facilitates your win conditions, that's definitely something you have to watch out for. But you know, Gustos have that inherent problem of kind of relying on your opponent to get things rolling and whatnot, but in some essence that's not as true now, because now we can make Gustos freeze with using just normal summoning or special summoning her, because with her effect you can get a wind tuner monster out of your graveyard in defense mode, and you can only summon wind monsters for the rest of the turn. That does not matter at all, because if anything, it just means that you can't just go into other generic synchro monsters, which is fine because we're mainly going to be going into Gustos freeze anyways. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of why she's in there, and she works with emergency teleport because she is a level 3 psychic monster that you can grab with it. So yeah, that's the thing. And also you can get her out of the deck with the 2 copies of Serene Psychic Witch. She in my opinion, Serene Psychic Witch kind of acts like a Gusto, because she can basically get 3 of your Gustos, well, 4 of your Gustos if you want to count Kamui, but you're not going to want to get her out of the deck most of the time. Or him, my bad, I think it's a guy actually. But Serene Psychic Witch is mainly to get Winda, Cam for your next turn if you want to draw, and obviously Pirika because her effect and going into Gustos freeze. Now, what's kind of cool about the Pirika is that if you use a card like Call the Haunted during your opponent's turn, like during their end phase or something like that, her restriction no longer applies when it comes to your turn. So you can go into your other level 6 Synchro and HTS, and you can still do other things like that. So that's kind of nice. Dark Hole is kind of self-explanatory. Supply unit, I know that's kind of weird for me to be running it because it's kind of counting our opponent to do stuff, but that's not entirely true. We can still crash our Gustos into their monsters to draw a card. More so when you have Gustos freeze out, because when she's on the field, your opponent's going to take all the battle damage from our Gustos being in battle. So, and you know, she can't be destroyed in battle herself. So we can crash our monsters, make them take the damage, and we could potentially draw 1, 2, or 3 cards depending on how many of these are on the field at the time, because that's how ridiculous this card happens to be, and it's a freaking starter deck card in OCG. Who'd have thought? Yeah, really freaking good. I mean, I might cut it down, but for now, 3 seems to be working. Creature swap, this is kind of a given because we have a lot of floaters, so we can give them our floaters. And, you know, we can take on like their boss monsters. We can take just anything, really. And we can take advantage of the fact that, oh, we give him our eagle? Okay, well, we'll get his effect, get Cam out, and we could potentially draw a card in main phase 2. So that's kind of a thing. Teleport, very good card. In fact, if you weren't running this in Gusto before, because, you know, Window was like maybe your only target or something, if you weren't running the Psychic build, you're definitely, 3 definitely works here. Because getting Pirika is really good. Getting 3 Second Witch to go for like maybe a single play with like Godo or using like Creature Swap, it's really cool. Or even if you're desperate and you need one last line of defense, you could get like Winda, but she will get banished at the end phase if your opponent does nothing. So that's kind of a thing you have to keep in mind as well. MST kind of given. Now, Foolish Burial is something I'm trying out in this deck. My reasoning behind this is I used it in tandem with Pirika Lineage of Gusto in a couple of ways. For one, I could send Gusto Godo to the graveyard to bring back with Pirika Lineage of Gusto. I can also send Pirika Lineage of Gusto to the graveyard to activate a card like Call of the Haunted to get her out of the same graveyard I just pitched her to and bring back a Gusto Godo or Eagle. So Foolish Burial just kind of facilitates that kind of play. You can also, if you want, you can also use Foolish Burial to send a second Gusto so that you can use Cam's effect to draw a card. I don't know. I mean, you might not be doing it that much, but it's kind of a cute. It's kind of a cute option if you want to go for that at least. But it's mainly for sending Godo or Pirika to use like Call the Haunted, or using Pirika's normal summon or special summon to bring back the Godo or Eagle that you send to the graveyard. So yeah, that's kind of my thought on Foolish Burial. As far as the traps, these basic. I know people don't like Compulse, but I actually like it in here. Especially if my Pirika gets Veilered, I could go Compulse my Pirika so I can use her effect next turn, and I still get her effect to bring back Godo, which floats for me, so that's very nice. Blackhorn, because, I don't know, I'm trying it out. I mean, I may not even keep it, but this seems alright. Call the Haunted, again, kind of the same reason that I kind of explained it when I talked about Foolish Burial. Mainly to bring back your Pirika or your Godo if they MST it, and they go, oh, MST? Okay, Call the Haunted, bring back Godo or Spring Second Witch, get their effects when they're destroyed, so yeah, you get another monster basically, which is pretty nice. Well, Godo gets you a monster immediately, this gets you one come the next standby phase. Divine Wrath. Now, Divine Wrath, I kind of took this idea from Definitely Yu-Gi-Oh! The reason I'm thinking about using it myself, and this is kind of my reasoning for it personally, it's mainly because in this deck, there's a few things you can actually get rid of, and that's perfectly okay. For example, getting rid of Gusto Godo in your hand. That's perfectly fine if you have something like Pirika Lineage of Gusto, or if you have Cam's effect online ready to go, you can pretty much make up for that discard. You can shuffle that Gusto and another Gusto back into your deck to draw a card. So in essence, I mean, you don't really lose much. I mean, there's gonna be those really awkward situations where you have something like Kamui or something like that where you don't want to discard him. But most of the time you have like a Gusto Tuner that you want to get rid of because Pirika could get them back. And you can obviously pitch Pirika if you have something like Call the Haunted face down. So you can kind of do something. That's kind of a cool thing you can do, especially if your opponent goes activating Effect Veiler. You can use Divine Wrath or something like that. But I don't know. It's just kind of a tech idea, and this is an idea I did take from Definitely Yu-Gi-Oh! And Blessings for Gusto. Now, the reason for this card, there's a couple reasons for it. Kind of like Call the Haunted, it's kind of used to bring back one of your key monsters for like maybe a single summon, like especially in the late game when you have a bunch of Gustos, you can go bring back Pirika and summon Godo, but by putting 2 other Gustos that aren't Godo or something like that back into your deck, and then you can go off. This is also good when you have that Gustos Freeze out in play too, because your opponent has a big monster out on the field, you can potentially attack them for game on that same turn. If you have Gustos Freeze and Gusto Godo on the field, you can, let's say they have Red MD or something like that, just something random. You go attack with Gusto Godo, they take 2300. Or was it 2300? I'm thinking it's 2300. Yeah, you take 2300 damage. Then you summon Eagle, you attack them, they take 2600 damage, and then you can summon Kamui, they take another 2800 damage, and then you go Blessings for Gusto, put your Kamui or Eagle back into your deck, and summon back the Godo and do it again. Or you do it with Winda too, so or do it with Winda. Wow. You can do this combo with Winda too. You can summon Winda instead of Kamui if he's not in your deck anymore. Like if you use them both up, you can use Winda as well. So I mean, I guess that's kind of another reason why I'm running Kamui, because he can also be used to ram because he only has 200 attack, and I can use Emergency Teleport. If I didn't get enough damage on the board, I can use Emergency Teleport to drag him out of the deck and attack with it per game, because this card is very freaking good. So that's my thought about Blessings for Gusto, and it's just a nice recycling card too. But for the OTK, I guess this card can definitely help, and you can get it back with Daigusto's Freeze's effect upon being synchro summoned. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, it actually gives her another target to get back. Extra deck, Daigusto Eagles. Now, I will still talk about this, and I will never stop talking about it. I do not like his end phase effect. Now, don't get me wrong, I love blowing down face down cards, but I really don't like banishing my wind monsters to do that, because it's kind of counterproductive to what this deck wants to do. The deck likes to float, recycle, draw, etc. Recycle and draw with Cam, etc. But what good is your recruiter engine if you're banishing them? Now, we do have a way to mitigate this in the form of Levier, the Sea Dragon. So it's not as bad now, but it's still pretty bad. But you'll get the effect off every once in a while, but I use it because it's a Gusto Synchro with 2600 attack. It's like the main level 7 Synchro I go into that isn't like Black Rose and stuff like that. So, I mean, you know, I don't like his effect, but for what he is, he's quite good. And you can bring him back with Blessings for Gusto if you really need to, because he is a Gusto monster you can bring back. So, yeah, it's not a bad idea, but I just hate banishing a wind monster. But we do have a way to mitigate this now. Daigusto Godos, we do run one. I thought about maybe running a second one, but I feel like one, I've only ever usually make one. I think one's like the max I've ever made playing Gustos in general. But, you know, I mean, you could maybe try to find space to put in the second one, but it is very good if you can pull it off. Daigusto Falcos, mainly because Pirika and Eagle make this, and it's basically the level 4 single you're going to be going into. The 600 attack bonus it's nice, but by itself it's okay, but with other Gustos, this is very good. If you have like Daigusto's Freeze out, she becomes 2600, so that's not bad, I guess, but I don't know. And you know, you could boost him to 32, and you could boost this to 28, so I mean, you could kind of do some cool stuff, but it's mainly there just to be a level 4 wind synchro monster that I can make when Pirika's restrictions in effect. And Daigusto's Freeze. Yeah, the basic win condition, I guess, because making your opponent take all the battle damage from when your Gustos are battling is really good, and your monsters are very weak, so you can get a lot of damage. Even if you don't take them out, you're going to be doing a lot of damage, especially if they have a big monster out. In fact, this kind of punishes people who are using Beals of the Diabolic Dragons, because with Beals, when the controller of Beals takes damage from battle, you know, a battle involving him or a card effect, he gains attack equal to the difference, or equal to the damage you took. Now that's really, like, you can take somebody out right away, because if you have Freeze and Godo out, you can go attack Beals, they'll take damage, he'll gain attack. So then you summon Eagle, you attack, you do even more damage, and then he's gonna gain more attack. And you see where I'm going with this? Of course you do, because I've seen a lot of Gusto players talk about this, and it might happen every so often if you run into this card, because not every deck's gonna be using it, but the decks that can, I mean, you can kind of take advantage of the fact that, oh, he's got a lot of attack. Oh, we have Daigusto's Freeze, we have Godo or Eagle. Okay, GG, Nori, or yeah, I don't know, I don't even know. But yeah, very good card. In fact, that's why I'm running 3, because Pirika can make it instantly. And that's the thing about this deck. You now have a very easy way to make this without having to like do all this weird stuff. Catastor, kind of a given, I guess. Magical Android. I go into this quite a bit, believe it or not. This is like the go-to level 5, especially if if my opponent doesn't have a threatening monster that I need to destroy with Catastor. I can just go into this to gain some life points. This is especially useful if I have other psychics like Cam, Sfreeze, etc. So I gain more life points each turn. Saheem just a generic problem solver. And I know you can't go into it when Pirika's effect is, or when her restriction's in effect, but remember you can use cards like Call the Haunted, or if you summon her out of the deck with Eagle during the damage step, then her restriction will not be in effect for your turn. So because it was during your opponent's turn that you did this. So that's basically why he's in here. Psychic Nightmare. Believe it or not, I actually go into him sometimes too. Mainly because he is a wind synchro monster that we can actually go into with Pirika and Godo. So if we already have Sprees, or if we just need to get over a monster, potentially, we can go into this guy, because during your main phase you can pick a card in their hand and guess what type it is. Now, even if you get it wrong, this can reveal information about your opponent's deck. This is especially true if they played something generic like Card D and you have no idea what they're actually playing. Because if you hit a specific kind of monster, spell, or trap, you will know what kind of deck they're playing. So you can play around your opponent based on the information that you're given. Plus you have the potential of making him 3400 attack until your opponent's end phase. That's pretty good. So I like the one. Black Rose, because Black Rose is freaking good. Thought Archfiend and Scrap Dragon. I don't actually go into level 8s too frequently, but it is very possible to go into level 8s. And it is definitely true, and these are the main ones I would go for. Thought Archfiend, just because it's a very good psychic synchro monster, and his effect to protect your psychics from getting targeted by a spell or trap is really nice, especially when you have something like Digusto's Freeze out and they have Dimensional Prison or something like that, or Compulse. Your opponent's gonna have to use Mirror Force or some other card effect to dispose of your field. But yeah, that's kind of something. And I did think about using Stardust, because it is a wind synchro monster, and when Pirika's restrictions in effect, you can't really go into these at all. So I don't know, it's something I've given thought to. Then Levier the Sea Dragon. Levier the Sea Dragon, mainly there to be used with Eagles, or if one of our monsters got banished by Bottomless Trap Hole or something like that, we could get them back. But it's mainly because Eagle banishes a wind monster during the end phase to blow up a face down card. Levier the Sea Dragon can get back one of those monsters. I can get back Cam to potentially use her effect to draw a card. I could get back Pirika and get her effect off. So there's a couple of cool things you can do, but you're mainly gonna make it off of Pirika, so don't try to do that multiple times, because you can only use the effect of Pirika once per turn. And then Totem Bird. Yes, Totem Bird, this guy. I'll be flat out honest with you guys. I don't know. He sucks in every other deck except this one, in my opinion. Unless your deck can make this very easily, I don't like it in other decks, because you could technically use the Mecha Phantom Beast if you run Duck Fighter, which I did run before, but I feel like in Gusto, this is the best deck to use in it, because Pirika can make it instantly. This and Godo makes this instantly. Now, this is also very good if you have a field of monsters already. If you have something like Digusto's Freeze out already, this is not a bad card to have along with her, because Totem Bird, with his effect, when they use a spell trap, you can attach to materials and negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. However, he loses attack points. So when he does that, he's gonna lose 300 attack. He'll be 1600, and you gotta get rid of 2 if you want to negate the card or spell trap. So he's kind of a worse Shien in a way, but since it's very easy to go into in this deck, I can arguably, say, yeah, he's a good card in the deck, but I just don't see it being used everywhere else, kind of effectively anyways. So that's the extra deck and main deck explained, and kind of long-winded again, because that's how my deck profiles seem to be. I don't just go over the cards, I just try to explain as many things as I possibly can, because there's a lot of things you could potentially do. And, you know, when I explain particular combos that some people may not have thought of, or, you know, people could try out certain cards and whatnot. And as you know, I just like to try weird stuff, like the Divine Wrath. I actually wanted to try that out. I wanted to try Blessings for Gusto, even though I don't think people use it. And Foolish Burial, I don't think people use it, but again, I have a bit of theorio with it and stuff like that, because again, like I said, with Foolish Burial, get Gusto Goro into the graveyard for Pirika, or, you know, get Eagle or something like that, or get a second Gusto to activate Can's effect, or you could dump Pirika to use Call the Hunted to bring her back. So again, Foolish Burial is just kind of like facilitating combos and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess one other last thing I want to bring up is, where is Reese? As you know, I've used Ree's Whirlwind of Gusto in just about all of my Gusto decks thus far. Even at 1, I've used her in like most Gusto decks I've ever put together. And to be honest, I might put her in here, and like if in place of one of these supply units, like for the when Pirika comes out in Primal Origin, these won't. So I can arguably replace one of them with Reese, and then I can maybe run like Forbidden Lands in place of the supply units and the other 2 supply units. So yeah, that's kind of a thing you can do, and that's probably what I'm going to do for the TCG variant of this deck. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this deck, and sorry if I sounded kind of weird, but that's because I was really sick, and I'm kind of getting better, but not by much, because my throat can kind of get really blocked up randomly, and it kind of sucks. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time. So yeah, peace, guys.